So, I have a vision. I have a dream.
I dreamt a dream.
I wasn't going there. I was Martin Luther King Jr., but I was like, I have a dream. I have a dream that there will be a day when we will not only have great music and a pianist that can play two instruments at the same time. Oh, yes. But no, there will be even greater things than that. We will have backup dancers. I think moving the body is a spiritual thing. And we will have someone like LaVon singing her heart out and the band going on. And then there'll be, or something, I don't know, jiving in the back. LaVon and the spiritualettes. Oh, jeez. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I want to tell you a little bit about what we will be doing today. I'm going to get back to basics. I'm going to talk basics for the next 3 weeks in September. And then the 4th week, it's going to the dogs, and the cats, and any other thing you want to bring that's well-behaved, because we will be having our pet blessing. So thank you for being here. And I'm also going to be, sharing my love of people who are really use the science of mind to make their life not just livable, but lovable. To love the life they love, to love it. And so it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Cindy Clay.
Good morning. As she said, I'm Cindy Clay. I'm a practitioner and a ministerial student, and I attended here for 25 or more years. My husband and I moved to Bellingham 5 years ago. And I just want to tell you a little bit about why I love these teachings. Kathianne asked me if I'd come and do a little power talk. So I started looking at my life, and I have been applying these spiritual practices and principles for a long time. I just closed my business, which I ran for 33 years, and I went through many ups and downs and challenges, but I always found my rock were these spiritual practices. I used to say, if you want to get closer to God, start your own business. And, and for a long time I said, my business is my spiritual practice. And of course, then I decided to become a practitioner. But I look at my life, and my business thrived through all that time, supported my family. I look at my daughters who are in their 20s now, and my husband and I use spiritual practices to make good parenting decisions, and they are now in their 20s and gainfully employed. Woo! And I was looking at the last 10 years where I have had several health challenges in the last 10 years. Some of them scared the bejesus out of me. And in all cases, I came back to my foundation, my spiritual practices, and I have moved way beyond them. They no longer trouble me. I have a Post-it note on my computer that says, there is a pattern of perfection at the center of my being, now operating in every organ and function, action and reaction. And I meditate on that every day. Just as an outcome, I got a new doctor last year. I went and did all the medical tests, and she was reviewing everything with me, and she looked up and she went, my God, Cindy, you're the healthiest senior I've seen here. Yeah. So you need a Post-it note on your computer. So Kathianne asked me if I would want to teach Living from the Masters on living a life you love. And I was like, heck yeah, I'm all over that. So I've spent the last couple of weeks redesigning the course so it's highly engaging and interactive and dynamic in Zoom. It starts in October 8. Wednesdays. It's going to be such a good class. I got so excited getting ready for it that my husband has registered. So he's like, I want to take that. So we're going to be looking at the 3 spiritual teachers who greatly influenced Ernest Holmes. And the first one is Ralph Waldo Emerson, who Ernest started reading when he was a young man. He was a revolutionary in terms of his thinking. He was so far out there for his day that he completely pissed off Harvard School of Divinity, and they would not have him back for 50 years. So it took 50 years for them to finally see the expansiveness of his thought. So we're going to mine his works for the glimmers of truth that influenced Ernest Holmes. And then we're going to look at Thomas Troward. And when Ernest Holmes found Thomas Troward, he was euphoric. He said, I finally found a rational thinker who can explain the laws of the universe. So we're going to be looking at the sparks in Troward's teachings that greatly influenced Ernest Holmes. And then the third teacher we're going to look at is Emma Curtis Hopkins. So we know she is a Christian mystic who worked in the late 19th century, early 20th century, called the teacher of teachers because she was so influential. And for Ernest's thinking, I think she influenced him in a lot of ways, but one of the big ways was his understanding of duality and unity. Because this famous quote from Emma is, I do not believe in mixtures of good and evil. I believe only in good. So she was just like taking a stand for the fact that there's only one power and presence, and it wants us to be thriving and happy and secure and healthy. The universe is here to benefit us, and that's all Emma coming through, the jewels of her wisdom coming through Ernest Holmes. So we're going to have a great time reading, writing, discussing, journaling, meditating, doing guided visioning, and all of that in the service of taking these really powerful practices, integrating them into our own lives so that we can live lives we love. So please sign up. Come join us.
Yes. And Thomas Troward would love this talk because he's the one that said, if you want to know God, look at nature because nature is the face of God. So the nature of things reveals the invisible of things. What we can perceive, monitor, pay attention to will reveal that which seems invisible, unattainable to us. Like, how do I think of that? By the way, speaking of science, I love it. Anyone else like science? A few of you. Yes, kindred spirits. We should have a Sangha. Anyway, I just found out, there's a man named Dean Hammer. He's a neuroscientist, and he's discovered a gene called the VMAT2. VMAT. Just in case any of you want to look it up, to make sure that I'm on track, not making stuff up, throwing it around. Anyway, VMAT2. It's a gene, and it's biological. It's a biological interface for a divine blueprint that allows us the ability to connect to something larger, to the universe itself. Whoa. Let's talk. It's a receiver that allows us to perceive a larger perception of reality. And what he said is that spiritual traditions at their heart were essentially created so that we could learn to operate this biological technology consciously. Yes. So that's why Sufis spin. That's why Hindus chant. That's why when they're reading the Torah, the Jewish rock. It's activating that gene, which activates what they would call unitive consciousness, and we would call practicing the presence. Meditation is part of the practice. Just that we provide practices. We have kirtans here. We have meditations at 8:30 in the morning on Sundays, and on Zoom we have meditations available Monday evening. It's like there are so many things that help us. Now I see it. We're activating something within ourselves. that can perceive what's already going on. God's not changing. As Rabbi Kushner would say, and it's my favorite definition of God, and I'm going to keep saying it until I get another one. He said that God is what's happening. Are we really awake to what's happening, or are we awake to the stories we're telling ourselves about what's happening? Okay, so the basics. If you're like me and somehow somebody needs to explain to me what's happening in my cell phone, that I get downloads of information that I'm interested in. How's that happen? I mean, have you even talked about something and then you see an advertisement for it? Anyway, besides scary, I'm grateful that I'm being fed information that I love. And I guess because I'm a metaphysician, I'm getting a whole lot of information about how to manifest things. Anybody else getting manifest things? Like, you can manifest this, and you can manifest this, and let's manifest this, and do this thing, and you'll manifest this. I want to go beyond the buzzword, because oftentimes people want to manifest this so that they can experience something else. I want to manifest a significant other so I can experience love. I want to manifest a raise so that I can experience wealth, which is not what we teach. I want us to learn the basics of how the universe works in such a way that we create a life we love, not just to manifest this and to manifest that. I was talking to someone last night, and he said, my favorite joke that you tell, and it's not a joke, is I've had to pray myself out of answered prayers. Because I manifested this, and then it's like, oh, I got to deal with this. Really? So how do we go beyond that? So just to know how the universe works, because just like there is an underlying desire in spiritual teachings and traditions. So they're not just the big major religions, but in indigenous teachings, there's this desire for people to have a unitive consciousness. So they're not just relying on their own wisdom. They are being informed by something greater than themselves. There's also something that shows up in every religion, and that's called the law of cause and effect. Although they might shift the way they describe it a little bit, but it's the law of cause and effect. So when you learn the law of cause and effect, it's not about manifesting something, it's about being in alignment with what's going on anyway. And choosing to use it consciously. So that, and I want us to say this, we're not only free then to create a life that we love, we're also free to participate in creating a world that works for everyone. Because it's more than just what's good for us. I mean, think about it. Does it matter what you manifest if the world is not working? If we have no clean oceans or water, does it matter that you have a new car? So really, we're being called to learn how to use it individually so that we can use it universally. So that we can come together and know that there's a principle that is working in our life, yay, and it will work outside of us as well in a bigger way. So get it? Okay, good. So consciousness is cause. Consciousness is cause, not the other way. The other way is all these effects will affect my consciousness. If I get this, and this, I will feel this. So that's backwards. What we teach and what the mystics have taught and what you're going to find out about quantum physics teaches is it's inside out. Inside out. The kingdom of heaven, which, I love it. First of all, in the Aramaic, it wasn't kingdom. It was a feminine word. It was queendom. I know. So you can see why it was shifted. Anyway, it was queendom, and it was a realm of empowerment. The realm of empowerment is within you. That's where we can live from. And to help explain that, I'm going to talk about quantum physics. I love quantum physics. And I've had to relearn physics. Because back in the day, I have such sweet memories when the universe was made of atoms. I remember that sweet, solid reality that we had, that if you got everything broken down enough, you got an atom. And then there was an electron and a neutron, and you could depend on those. And you could put them together, and they could do things, and you could do, chemicalization. It's so not true. So, what have we learned from quantum physics? First of all, remember, consciousness is cause. We're going to stay there. Consciousness is cause. The first thing that we learn from physics, which is a law, is the observer effect, which means your focus creates reality. At the smallest level that we can measure, attention creates the result. So how do they do that? Who knows? I mean, all I can think of is, how do you get these little things? I mean, really, how do you do this? So they want to know if light is a wave or a particle. So they put up these slits, and then they put a laser through them. And guess what? It's a wave or a particle. You know what it depends on? Who's observing the experiment and what they expected. Love it! The building block, light itself, is ruled by consciousness. If consciousness can rule the sunlight coming down to us, it can probably rule other things. This means that your attention alters your reality. Actually, it was told in the Bible. Actually, I love it. Ernest Holmes said there will be a time when the scientists will climb the mountain peaks of wisdom and intelligence, and the mystics will have been there waiting for them. And I can honestly just see the mystics at this nice picnic table, a little basket, drinking some wine, saying, "Yo, bro, good you could make it. We've been waiting for you. Nice to catch up. What took you so long?" Let's see. Nancy, would you go ask? I think it would probably be Patrick or maybe Janelle to turn the heat down a little bit. Thank you. So, anyone else getting warm? Okay, thank you. I'm taking care of us. All right. So that's called the observer effect. In the Bible, it's taught a lot of ways, a lot of different ways and different stories. But one of the stories is of Jacob. Now, Jacob, a lot of story, but here's the crux of the story. He wants to marry Leah. He has to marry Leah so he can marry the one he really wants to marry. So older sister first, and he wants the dowry that goes with the sisters. And the father-in-law says, "Of course I'll give you a dowry for her. Every spotted livestock born in the spring will be yours." And Jacob looks around and sees solid colors, solid colors, solid colors, solid colors, solid. So he takes sticks and he cuts. Some of them had spots, but if they didn't, then he cut spots in sticks and put the sticks around the watering hole, so that when the cattle came in to drink, he would see the cattle and he'd see the spots. Guess what happened in the spring? According to the story, all the livestock born had spots, and he went away with a large dowry. Now, I'm not sure that really happened. I'm not sure that sticks will create spotted goats, but they were trying to teach visualization. What are you giving your attention to? Are you giving your attention to how impossible it's going to be because there's only solid color livestock? Or are you going to give your attention to the spots that you keep seeing? Why do those vision maps work? Because you're putting your attention on those pictures. Now, here's the bad part. Want to know the bad part? That's why what you resist persists. Because, honestly, when you don't want something, what do you put your mind on? And it's hard to not put your mind on it, isn't it? It's like you pray it away, or you ignore it, or you binge on Wednesday on Netflix, or something that obviously you're not watching Wednesday on Netflix. Some Netflix thing. Anyway, you binge, you get off your, but you're even getting dummied down in some way, your way of dummying down. What you're doing is you're resisting this thing, and this thing is still on your mind, and therefore what's on your mind continues to persist because your attention's on it. That's why it's very important to reach the state of neutrality. Neutrality. It's really hard to reach neutrality. You don't have much money and the rent's due. It's hard to be neutral. You got a verdict from the doctor that doesn't sound good, and it's really hard to be neutral. It's really hard to be neutral and know love when people in your family are acting out. It's really hard to know a possibility when you haven't seen any possibilities in the past. It's hard to be neutral. Last service, I talked about taking an S training, and I love it. Reverend Liz Moranti texted me and said, remind people that the S training was the precursor to Landmark. Okay, so who took EST? EST was wow. Landmark, not so wow, but I mean, it was fierce. And the essence of it was, you can't create except out of nothing. You have to create out of nothing, because if you try to recreate out of something, you're just switching something around. And I understand now why they said nothing. You've got to be neutral. That's why prayer practitioners are so powerful, because they are not bogged down by the way that you see things. They can be neutral. They know God in the midst of your body. And you're going, I know the doctor said, and they're going, I don't care about the doctor. We know a higher power. They're not constricted by your current situation, your consciousness. So when you turn, I'm blinking. That's God saying yes. Anyway, every time you see that, God's going, good girl, go. Yeah, okay. So to turn it over to someone, it's like, I'm in this condition, and now I want you to know it for me. I always feel so good when I've handed it over, because I can't get there, but I can let it go and let somebody else get there. That's the observer effect. They are going to observe a solution. They're going to know a solution for you. The next thing that comes out of quantum physics is the infinite possibility, the field of all possibilities. They don't talk about God. They talk about a field of all possibilities. And in this field theory, they call it field theory, where everything already exists, anything can happen. But the ego doesn't see the field. The field doesn't exist for us. Our history and our logic is what narrows the field of possibility. We calculate what's possible, and then we fixate on it. There's many worlds. They say in quantum physics, there's a belief that there's many worlds or universes in this field of possibility, that they're existing in some way, shape, or form. That's why, let's go back and be biblical, what the mystics were teaching. When Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions, guess what? Father, an Aramaic word for father was also source. So when he said that Father and I are one, he was saying the source of all life and I are one. The field of all possibilities and I are one. He became conscious of it. Whatever that gene was, it was really active in him. And then house in the Bible means consciousness. So in this field or source of life, there's a consciousness of possibility. And so Rumi could say, there's a field beyond right thinking and wrong thinking. I'll meet you there. Wow. For us to walk into that field, to be lifted into that field, means that we start to make choices based on what's possible, not what's probable. Ooh. We no longer expect something to happen based on prior conditioning. We start to be the cause, because we have this expanded consciousness, we start to be cause in our life instead of always remaining an effect. Ooh. There is a field of possibilities that are amazing, and we actually, according to Jesus, we live, move, and have our being in it. We're just becoming conscious of it, I should say. Then, the third thing that comes out of quantum physics is the wave function collapse. Wave function collapse. This goes back to those electrons. Back in the good days when there was an electron and there was a neutron and there were things inside the neutron, those were good days. Those were the days, my friends, I thought they'd never end. It was so solid and so predictable. But that's not true anymore. What's true is there's only probabilities of that electron being there. And there's only a probability of the neutron existing and all the other quarks and small little bits of matter. And they only really appear in matter when looked for. They're a wave, they're an energy, they're a possibility until looked for, and then they go, okay, here I am. Out of the field of possibilities, the zero field of possibilities, matter, you want some matter? There's some matter. There's some more matter. There's a little bit more matter. This is wild. I love it. So, there is no concrete small bits of matter. There's only probabilities. And they appear only when looked for. Now, what's that mean? What you expect will eventually show up. If you expect a neutron will appear. If you expect an electron will appear. If you expect a whole atom, that will show up as well. Unfortunately, many of us pray for one thing and expect another. We pray for this and we expect it to take a while. We pray for this and we expect that maybe God will hear us somehow, or whatever. In the Bible, let's do the little Bible stuff. Job's life was so blessed. He had all the wives, all the children, all the cattle, all the good stuff, and then he lost it all, and he said, the thing I feared the most, what I expected, has come upon me. We expect prayers to work for some people, but not all the time. We sometimes put ourselves outside of the promises given in so many scriptures and holy books. We don't expect it. So, it applies not only to the prayers for ourselves. I think that Cindy Clay had been using the principles enough that when the physical stuff started to happen, she expected something would happen for good. That's why we're always practicing the present. So our expectation of something responding to our prayers or our intentions helps us when something comes up that we really need to have that faith. So you practice faith before you need it. You practice expecting a good day before you need it. When I've had physical things happen, I expect something to shift. I do, because I've proven it so many times to myself. Little ways, big ways, it's like amazing. To practice, like even if you have a headache, practice it going away. You have a sore knee. Practice with that. Practice all the time so that when something major shows up, you could go, no, my body, well, I don't know what you said, but that was pretty good. There's a divine patterning, and I'm expecting a beautiful solution, a healing now. But here, I want to get a little bigger. We pray for peace, and we don't expect it to ever happen. We expect people to continue to bicker and to feud and to fight, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Not only is it country to country, it's like at Walmart. I mean, people have a little, like when I was growing up, and I hate to say it, but maybe I need to. If people had a bickering, they'd push each other on the shoulder and walk off. Now they pull out a gun. And unfortunately, we're becoming numb to it. We're expecting it to happen. We don't want it to happen. There's a big difference between wanting and expecting. Well, this is the way that it is. Consciousness is cause, my dears. If we all made a promise to consciously pray that we are inspired by the presence and the power and the love of God, activated by some gene, or simply chanting, if we would pray for 5 minutes and feel, then start to expect that harmony broke out, harmony would start breaking out. But we pray in such a way, it's like, God, shift people. No, shift you. Shift you first. It's got to be you. It's got to be me. I have to dedicate myself, and I tithe my money. Now I've got to tithe my time, my energy, and my prayers, which are powerful, by the way, to seeing the world the way I want it to be. Because the song's too cheap. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. As soon as somebody becomes nicer, I'll like them. Please, God, change those people. No, consciousness is cause. Leadership reflects the consciousness of the masses, not the other way around. We are cause. And to start to own that, then we start to give our attention to that which we want. I love it. Oh, I think it's called Life Uncommon. Have you ever sung that by Jewel? If peace on earth, if praying were enough, peace would have come to be. It's not praying for something, it's praying to be something. It's praying to hold something. It's the divine feminine giving birth to a new reality. It's that we're called to be. Not just for ourselves. Not to just be peaceful in the midst of conflict, but to also be the epicenter of that. And sufficiency for everybody. You know why there's conflict? Because there's no sufficiency for everybody. We live in a world of gaps becoming bigger. To heal our own sense of scarcity. And to with reverence know these things for the world that we want to see unfold before us. And as Ernest Holmes would say, and then wait with glad anticipation the fruits of the time that I'm spending on cultivating this consciousness. Because consciousness is still cause, folks. And so it is.